fellow builders, and welcome back to the bench. We're on part 2 of the Colonial Mandalorian Jetpack armor build. There's a mouthful. Okay, so when we ended last time, we were waiting on our second one to print. So we got these two, and we got our exhaust nozzles. And there's just some bit of satisfaction when you go into a computer and you create something in the computer, and then you can send it to a machine and it makes it, you know. There's just, it's just, I'm feeling really good right now. And I knew this is what it was going to look like on the computer on the back end. I would like to have been a little bit more concave, but for our purposes, this is going to work out just fine. Because, I mean, after all, we started with this, and the blessing and curse of being a scratch builder, whatever is, you go through life not looking at things as what they are, but what they could be. And this is a perfect example. This could be, I mean, in the right aspect, that could be a grain elevator, or it could be a propane tank. You cut it off short, it could be the nozzle end of a Jawa blaster, because it's, you know, got that really big end. But for our purposes, it's going to be a rocket engine. And that right there, my friend, is a pretty convincing rocket. Now, granted, I did not design that. That's from another build, but I think this looks really good. This is a good foundation. But then imagination started rolling, because then I thought, well, what if you did that? That right there, my friend. Ooh. So I'm thinking Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle mutagen vessel chamber thing, or a Star Trek antimatter containment vessel, or the potential is literally endless what you can do with this. So when you're looking at stuff, don't look at it with your eye. Don't look at it with your eyes. Don't look at it with your brain. Look at it with your subconscious. See what it could be. Anyway, enough of that for the moment. So, where does that leave us? We are at the point where we have to get these brackets properly spaced apart, and then we have to mount it to the back of the foam. Therein lies the problem. Okay. 3D prints are great, lightweight, you can do what you want with them, but you really can't run a screw or anything into them to where it's going to hold. And even if you did run a screw through the foam, you'll most likely just pull it through. So we got to figure out a way to do that. And, okay. I know I said I really wanted to do the assault rifle over the shoulder magnetic mount. And I should know, every time I say magnets is probably the answer, magnets is never the answer, and I end up not using them. Although I've seen other people use them. My concern is that the weight distribution is going to be off to one side when the rifle is there, and I think it'll just shift the foam. And even if I've got it the weight distributed, I just think it might do something funky having that weight off to one side. This should be fairly balanced with all the pieces are going to be right there in the center. So what I'm thinking about doing is, I got some angle aluminum that I'm going to use contact adhesive to glue to the bottom of this. What that's going to do for me is going to give me something to be able to run a screw through to bite into. Okay? I think I'm going to use Kydex, a small piece of Kydex, and that way I can run the screw. Okay, let's back this up a little bit. I plan on sandwiching a mounting surface. So if this is the back piece, this is my back, and the Jetpack's going to be here. We'll have the Kydex here, right? And then I'll have another piece of foam core on the other side. So I've got some thicker foam core or whatever, right? Like that. We're going to make ourselves a little sandwich. And that way I can run the screw through and have a large washer or something, flat washer or something, holding it from the back side to distribute the weight on the back end, and it's going to screw into the Kydex, and the Kydex will hold it on the front end. So all we really have to do is, right now, make our measurements. Well, two things. Figure out how big our plate needs to be on the front and back side, which should be fairly simple. But we're going to have to adhere the aluminum to this, and I think all that's going to take is a little bit of contact adhesive, but just for a little bit of security. Alright, it's an L bracket, and so I was thinking about having an L go this way, and that way I could run a screw through the Kydex and bolt it here, but also have another L coming backwards, and that way I'll have screws coming up into this, but also having it hold it. That way it's not holding it in just these two spots, it's holding it in four. Yeah, that makes, and not in a straight line. That way I have, that's what we're gonna do. So what that means is I need to take my two L brackets, butt them up together. I don't have anything L-shaped here. And since they're both aluminum, I want to braze the backs together. So I guess we're going to go into the garage and do some brazing. So we're going to start there. See how well that works. we go any further, I want to address some potentially hazardous mistakes I made in that last clip. The first thing is that I didn't check my surroundings and I was using an open flame. There are a lot of things that were in and around the area that could have caught on fire. There were candles there was loose paper, there were rags. That was not good. Okay, the second thing was I was heating up something that wasn't secured, which falls back into the whole problem of having flammable things around there, because it did actually drop off the table onto the floor at one point, and had it been fallen into something that could have caught fire, that's a whole nother host of problems. I didn't show it, I don't think I did, but there were a couple of times where I walked away from the propane torch with it still burning, and for no other reason than I have cats. I've got a cat that stays here in the garage, and he's always wanting to get in the middle of the stuff that I'm doing, and it could have very easily he could have knocked that over into my uncleared area and caused a fire. I didn't have any gloves, because if you're heating stuff up, eventually you're going to have to move it while it's hot. Aluminum is a great, it dissipates heat very well, and I didn't realize how well it actually dissipates heat until I burned myself, which brings me to the last huge mistake that I made. And I touched it and I didn't feel the heat immediately, and then I pulled my hand away when it hit hard. Luckily, I didn't get any kind of a burn. By the next morning, I didn't even feel it. And when I was editing the video, I even had to double check which finger it was. But that's still no excuse. The things that we do are for fun, but if we don't do them right, someone can get seriously hurt. Cosplay is no fun from the hospital. So I apologize for being unsafe, and I will be better in the future. I will try to be better in the future. I do end my videos by saying, have fun and be safe. Well, this is the be safe part. So, all right, now back to the video. Okay, so I've got my brackets. I brazed them together. Not the greatest. Let me say this. When they say aluminum is a heat sink, and they're not lying. I had this heated up, and then the heat was away from it for a minute, and it was this one, because I didn't get it quite lined up, and I was double checking to see if it was completely flat, and I touched it, and when I first touched it, I didn't feel anything, and then bam, the heat hit, and it got me good. So aluminum absorbs a lot of heat. So anyway, so I got my holes drilled. We're gonna rivet it to our plate. So we've got our Kydex cut front, and then we got our foam core for the back. So this is gonna be on the outside, and this is gonna be on the inside of the foam. We've got our holes marked. We just need to drill these out so that the holes are lined up. So I've got it clamped together real tight, so all my holes are going to see, that wasn't good. Let's do that. There. Okay, that's better. Okay. And that one's done. So I came up with the idea that I wanted to put some kind of maybe hoses or something on the bottom of this. So it's going to be like this, and I can run some hoses. But like I said, this isn't going to hold anything being threaded in. So I'm going to take this piece of Kydex, and I'm going to use the contact adhesive, and I'm going to glue it to this. That way I can drill into this, and I can put some kind of attachments there. I can actually thread this or whatever. So that's take our Sharpie. Got a T up there for top. Put a B down here for bottom. And then put a B for bottom. Okay. So now we're going to take our contact adhesive. Okay, we're gonna adhesive this up. So we got this one. That one's that's the top one. It's more cute as well. Top. B for bottom. All right. I'm gonna take you and you and you. Also, well, good morning. Went to bed late last night working on this and got our backpack piece Frankenstein together. And I got to tell you, I had some second thoughts because having to adhere the aluminum to the 3D printed piece, you have to think, well, was that the best solution to this problem? What would I have done if I didn't have a 3D printer? And the answer to that was I probably would have used some MDF. I probably still would have come up with this shape or something close to it. And I would have cut it out of MDF, and I'd have spent a lot of time sanding and shaping and trying to get it to where I needed to get it. And then I would have just used wood screws to mount it to the plate. And this Frankenstein monster, it almost feels like, did I waste material or go overboard? I don't know. I mean, you could argue either way. But I was using what I had, which is another one of our mantras: use what you got, and go from there. So, like I said, I glued this one piece of Kydex to the bottom so that I would have a nice kind of uniform bottom, because this will sit fairly high on my back and you would be able to see it. So I wanted that to be nice and cover up the bottom of the plate. But I also wanted to be able to either thread this or run something in here so I could run maybe some hoses or something. But now we have to cut it out, and I wasn't sure. I couldn't do it on the bandsaw because I've got too much stuff going on there. But we're going to just use our Dremel with our rotary bit on it, and it seems to be cutting the Kydex pretty well. So we're just going to continue on with that. What's the rule? Dirty or stinky, do it in the garage. I know, my bench is a mess. This is the garage bench. It is a mess right now. But well, look at that. We're gonna ignore that. If you ever wonder whether you're a real builder, you have flakes of what you're building in your coffee and you still drink it, you're a real builder. I'm gonna call this good. See, look at there's the top. Here's our bottom piece that we're gonna be able to accessorize there. It's gonna sit like that with your rockets on there. I will say this. I used rivets and I made my 2 aluminum brackets and I put them on there, and I just kind of eyeballed it and I bolted down the top one, and then I put some rivets in there just to place it to see if I got my placement right, and it was off kilter, and I just was sure that I got it straight. You know, double check your work, because it would have been a little bit cattywampus, and I would have been angry that I didn't do that. So even though you think you got it, before you do that final chunk, you know, and glue it down or whatever, double check your work. All right. I think I might be... Nope. We're not going to do that yet. So even now looking at it, I feel like it's not quite straight, because this gap seems a lot narrower than on this side. I'm overthinking it. Don't worry about it. We're soldiering on. While I was waiting for the contact adhesive to cure on the backpack mount, I decided to go in and fix a couple of problems that were starting to bother me. One problem was with the nose cone. So the nose cone was from a completely different build. A Jango Fett backpack that I got off of Thingiverse. And it's a complete backpack set. So this piece was not designed to go in here. And even though it fit, it was wobbly. And at first I was going to use plumber's putty and put it around the lower rim and then just kind of center it. And then I decided I wanted to be a little bit more accurate than that. And what I did was I went into Fusion 360 and I made a ring. So what I did was I went in and made this little ring here. You can see it's only that thick, and it's only like 5 millimeters wall thickness here, but what that does for me, it allows me to center it in there. So now it goes right in, and there's no wobble, and there's just enough room in there for me to be able to put my contact adhesive in there, and it will dry on the center. The other thing I decided I wanted to do while I had this, when lay it down, is I'm thinking ahead to detail, and I want there to be a little bit more detail when it's sitting here, and I came up with what I'm calling winglets. And it's, you know, kind of just a shaped piece of 3D printed, you know, and it'll just go right on. I haven't decided what angle it's going to be, maybe, you know, but it's going to go right on there and just add a little bit more interesting look to it instead of just having this plain rocket fuselage, you know. So those two things got done. And since we actually did get the harness, the rocket holder completed, why don't I show you what it looks like? And here we are. Whoop. So that's what, I mean, it's looking pretty good. I mean, it's solid. It doesn't look like it's gonna be too cumbersome. It's fairly well balanced, and I wanted to make sure that I got it low enough. So these, I still have to figure out exactly how high or low I want these, but yeah, I mean, we're looking at that. I mean, one on either side. Then you've got the Cylon Raider model right there in the middle, and then we're just gonna trick it out. Well, I've got it. I also went on ahead and cut out my front pieces in the foam because I'm trying to decide how exactly I want to do this. I think I'm going to attach my, go ahead and glue my shoulders and maybe the center, and then that way on the sides I can use the adjustment so I can get it closer to my body, put Velcro on the sides. That way I just slip it over my head. This thing looks really big. I mean, there's a lot going on there. So we're back to, oh, I also stopped at the hardware store and got some little fittings that I wanted to, gonna use some of these brass fittings and some copper pipe. I got this, and this has been laying around over at Mom's house for about 30 years. This is actually just 1/4-inch copper tubing for ice, and an ice maker. Actually, I think that's what Dad had bought it for years and years ago, and it's just been coiled up down there, waiting to be used. When I ran mine, by the time I ran it in my house, we were using vinyl. So, and using actual metal never hurts because it's gonna give it an air of authenticity, because you'll have some metallic looking and shiny bits here and there, and even when you weather it, weathered metal looks like weathered metal. So anyway, that is going to do it for the moment. I guess we've got, I got to figure out how to do, my shoulder on one side didn't get lined up right, and that was a whole ordeal in and of itself, just trying to get these 3-dimensional things in a 2-dimensional manner so you can cut them out. It's not easy, and then every time I cut it too big, and if you cut it, so I want it to be a little bit more form-fitting but have a little bit of room, but then I also want to be able to have some kind of decoration or something on there to where it doesn't look like it. I want it to look like leather with some kind of like the Rocketeers jacket thing. I mean, not necessarily with although that wouldn't be a bad idea, but that's not the direction I want to go. But I'm kind of leaning towards that. I even picked up some brown paints that I'm going to use to get closer to that leather look, and I also am going to try the foil ball method, where you take a ball of foil and you heat up your foam, and then you use the foil to indent your foam to give it some contour. So we still have a long way to go before this thing is complete. Got a lot to think about. Now you gotta go. You gotta go and build something, and like and subscribe to the channel if you don't mind, and tell a friend, and we could be making jetpacks together. Until next time, have fun.
Pew 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 pew.